Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Pillar to Post. I am Rashaun Alleyne, and I'm joined as always by Kobia Hamblin, and together we are going to be previewing the 8 race card for the Midsummer Creole Classic Race Day, and it features the second jewel of the Barbados Triple Crowns, the Grade 1 Midsummer Creole Classic that we're going to get into later.
Rashaun, let's get straight down to brass tacks. Let's get straight into race one. We started there off with the 3-year-olds and older going 9 furlongs, rated 70 and below. And for this particular race, I haven't chosen him recently, maybe for a good reason. Owners might be thankful for such, but I fall into the trap. I chose binary code. 114 pounds is super duper hard to ignore, especially with the fact that the others in this race have 131. Mind you, yes, there is a claim 127, 124, 121. A horse with a penny stamp of 114, I cannot ignore, especially being maybe the lone speed in the race as well.
Yeah, Binary Code is definitely one of the horses that's doing really well in the country right now, and he's stepped up in class and won three back-to-back races, and then he threw in a clunker last time out, and I thought the waters got a little deep when he went to the 80s and lower. So he comes back here with the 70s and lower, a class he still hasn't won with, but it's more of the same horses. I'm going to take a stand against him. I don't have him in my try. I just think the last race showed him up a little bit, and I think maybe this train has run out of steam. But the good binary code, which we saw, 2, 3, and 4 starts back, will be very competitive, especially beating horses like Priceless, who I'm going to pick in this spot underneath of someone else. But binary code definitely is a horse that is dangerous in this spot, but I'm going to take the wait and see. As you talk about the penny stamp and the claim with binary code, that's why I'm going to end up on horse number 1, Inferon, who gets Muhammad, who's going to claim 7 off of 111 and probably put a couple pounds overweight. But anything less than 110 here for Inferon, who is in this group of talented 3-year-olds. He's just another one. And he came off of a 7-month layoff last time out and ran behind one of the best ones we have in Mystic Adventure. He ran on that day with 109. So the fact that he was able to run with 109 pounds and run so close to Mystic Adventure, I think this is a group that he can hang with. And 9 furlongs, the son of Tap right out of a Kinnon's Joy mare, should hit him right between the eyes, even though he's a smaller horse. I think 109, 110 pounds even, this is a very dangerous horse. And then I am going to take number 6, Priceless, on my second line. This is a horse who we did show finishing behind Binary Code, but 2 starts. But last time out, when he finished behind Showtime, which was a performance ahead of Binary Code, he was best in that race. And it was unfortunate he wasn't able to get up behind Showtime. And if you look at his form, this is a horse that he's run second, fourth, second, third, and 2 seconds before that. This is a horse that shows up. So I'm going to trust this one underneath of Inferon. And then Fantastic Shantae, who loves the trip of 1,800 meters, had to make an early move behind Binary Code when she lost to him. But I think with the pace here, Fantastic Shantae, because of the presence of Renee when I mentioned the pace, Fantastic Shantae at 1,800 meters is always one that you want to trust. So I'm going to open the day with a 1-6-2 try.
I do agree that she is one to ignore. She does fall on my second line, but to go back to my winner versus yours, Inferon being a maiden, it takes a lot for me to like this horse. I don't think anything is wrong with him. I think it's more maybe not his time.
I mean, when you that's why I'm talking about with this group, how talented they are, because when you look at Mystic Rain, he broke his maiden in open company. Zeba, she did the same. So it's not that they need to be playing with their age group in order to win. So I think the talent just with this group is very, very vast. So I'm very confident that he could also break his maiden in open company.
Which I see no arguments towards, but more so for me, it's a case of he's had his opportunities. And he did run a very good second to Mystic Adventure, but as you would have said earlier, Binary Code stepping back down from 80 and lower where he was dismissed. He goes back to the 70s, and the 70s are very reminiscent of the company he would have been with 65s and 60s and even 50s. I think this is a familiar class to him, and he should have no issues dismissing these. On my second line, I went with Fantastic Shantae. As we would have just said, she is a regular customer to this field, as well as Priceless, who I have on my third line. Priceless is getting up there in age, but he's still showing he has what it takes to compete with these.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure how much of a horse like Inferon, who's only had 3 starts, has had his chances, but we'll see how this one goes. This is a competitive one to open the card. We're going to move on to race number 2. It's the Troublemaker Handicap. It's also for 3-year-olds and older, and they're going 1,100 meters. And we talk about these impressive 3-year-olds in this group. One of the best in the class, Soleil Levon. We both don't see her losing in this spot.
As much as we don't see her losing in this spot, she does have a different rider versus who she has had for her last hat trick of wins. Now, if I date back to 3rd of January 2026, she would have ran second to another horse in here, Soleil Levant, who would have been able to get away by about 5 to 8 lengths on the lead and had a
Right.
very, very comfortable lead. And Soleil had to run back at her. Now, I find this is not quite a spot I like her in. It seems like when Rashid rides her, he has her a bit more engaged, a bit closer to the pace. And she's always there to pounce from the time the leader starts to fall to coming home. As you can see in this race, she's 5, 6, even 7 lengths behind. And she is catching she is catching Etta James, but Etta James is already far gone. It's quite futile from here.
Yeah, Ella James ran a hole in the wind that day. And then you come back and you're going to show another replay where the very next start, Soleil Levant took it to Ella James and she handled the business very easily.
Yeah, precisely. And this is exactly what I mean. So right here, you can see a night and day difference in the ride that Rashid provides her, or gives her, should I say, and keeps Etta James on her P's and Q's. She's never able to get away by the same amount. She's never even able to get away by maybe a half length to 3/4 of a length. She's always humbugged, and Soleil Levant passes this test with flying colors. I think this is what she requires, but this is the first time someone else besides Rashid is going to ride her. So it's all left to be seen. I think the class is there. I think the ability is there. It's all up to the jockey from there.
No, Beckles is definitely not going to be a massive downgrade by any means. So she's
By,
going
by
to be
no
a
means, all I agree.
yeah, she's going to be a very, very hard horse to beat in this spot. Underneath her, I'll take Etta James. I think when you look at Etta James losing last time to Zeba, she had to rate, but losing the exacta where Lovely was able to run her down. I don't think that Lovely's going to get her in this spot, especially if Daniel can keep close to the 111 or the 108, depending on where he's at. She's going to be in front. Be aggressive with her. She's the fastest. Keep her on the lead, as opposed to when she had to chase Zeba. So I don't foresee Soleil Levant in this spot rushing up for the lead because she's just gotten so much better since she lost to Etta James, and she can sit behind Etta James now and beat her, even though she would have to give her over 10 pounds. And then I'll take number 2, Lovely. It was a toss-up between her and Showtime. Showtime ran really well in her last couple of starts, but this is a horse that we've seen lose to Soleil Levant, and I just think Lovely's a little bit better. Also one who might like the 1,100 meters more than Showtime, but this is another small but very competitive field in race number 2.
Competitive feel is right, and I am not absolutely sold on the Showtime train. As much as she did win a sprint just the other day, it took me by surprise because I've never seen her perform like that. It still hasn't sat with me well enough to consider her here. On my second line, horse number 2, Lovely, who's going to run onto the pace coming for home, 127 -5, a regular rider in Raheem Thorpe. And for my third place, Paper Trail, 116 pounds with Lester Blin Edwards.
Yeah, that's a horse that I really don't know how we're going to trust. With Etta James, I couldn't imagine her being out of the trifecta, especially for Paper Trail, where last time out when Soleil Levant and Showtime beat him, he was nowhere to be found. The race before, he was loose on the lead and still was run down by Lovely. I just don't know where the good Paper Trail has been, and I don't think coming back in this spot, it's an easy spot to land in.
No, I agree with you. It's not an easy spot. I don't think it's an easy spot for any of these per se, but someone's got to strike the board. I feel lucky on Paper Trail. I think he's good enough to get it done from what he has shown previously. But as you would have stated, I don't know if this is a good Paper Trail. Princess Aruna does not strike my line at all. Etta James, likewise.
Yeah, so I think it's an easy spot for Soleil Levant, but we'll see how that one shakes out. We're going to move on to race number 3. It's the State Attorney Handicap. It's 1,100 meters for the 3-year-olds and older, rated 25 and below. This is, again, we talk about this all the time. These horses take turns beating each other. They ran last race day, and I was able to nail the exacta with Russia Miss Universe. And that's the race that's going to help me to land on Miss Universe in this spot. And we both are on Miss Universe. We actually have the same tray here. So this one doesn't look super open. It looks pretty cut and dry. And Miss Universe, 128 pounds is obviously the big question mark. And she ran last time out at 9 furlongs, coming off of her maiden breaking win. And if you can see right now up the back stretch, I wanted to start the highlight from here because Delano Lopez, unsolicitedly. No one was pressuring him. But she walked the first quarter mile in 26. And for some reason, she went the half mile in 50, which is a second quarter in 24. And again, there was no pressure. And she was
There
the
was no
lone
reason to
speed.
quit it.
So I'm not sure what she felt, or maybe it was the horse, but I'm not sure what Lopez wants to do here, slip the field. But this is not the type of field that you need to necessarily do this with, especially when you're riding one of the best horses. So when I saw that 24 second quarter, I was like, there's no way she's going to outstay Rush. And so said, so done. So I think cutting back here to 15, 17, again, she looks like the lone leader on paper. If Lopez can just ration that speed out a little better, maybe even if she did go the 50, given that it's just the mile, I think Miss Universe will be very tough to beat. Obviously, as we mentioned, the 128 is alarming, but I remember Corinne McKinnon a couple starts ago was able to down Temple Dancer with 128. So why can't she if she's loose on the lead as well? So I don't have to convince you because we have the same tray.
Yeah, completely identical try. You hit the nail on the head as it relates to Miss Universe. That's exactly how I felt about the ride. We have a saying. I don't know if it's specifically at the Garrison or if it's worldwide, but if you're out front, they have to catch you. There's no slowing down. I don't know if maybe in this situation a breather would have helped Miss Universe in her last start to have something more for home, or maybe that was the best way forward. But I think she can do the exact thing now that it's a shorter distance. Now that we've cut back down to 7.8, I think she can be flying up front as she likes, and she's going to take a lot to catch back. On both of our second lines, as you said, we went for horse number 6, Temple Dancer. 17 million US is on our third lines. But for my fourth, I went with horse number 2, Social Distance. Social Distance, 126 pounds, I do agree, is a bit, especially for a horse like him, but he has an apprentice. He's taken off 7 pounds. And the social distance of 2025 or maybe 2024, if I remember, didn't run out the top two in like 6 months. I maybe I'm reminiscent on those performances, but if the connections can get him back to where he was, this field is easily dismissible. At the same time, if he's not 100% or not where he once was, I still think he's good enough for at least fourth, at least to be knocking around.
Well, the best race he's run in the last 3 years has been against a celebrity human. So I'm not sure how social distance is going to fare here. The form is terrible down the
He's
page.
terrible.
So if he hits for you, good for you because again, this super looks pretty chalky. I'll take number 3, Prominent. I've said a lot about 17 million US, but I noted her last performance, so I'll put her in there, especially if it's going to get anything less than firm. She's definitely one to watch with the claim. But Prominent finished third last time behind Miss Universe and Temple Dancer. I'm going to split with 17 million US and put Prominent in there as well at 114 pounds. So we'll see how that race number 3 shapes out. And then we'll move on to race number 4. It's for West Indian bred 3-year-old maidens at 15, 17 meters. These are the ones that probably were Derby dreaming and time is just slipping away. It's the Midsummer, but on Midsummer Day, they're in a maiden race. And this is one where I think we're going to have a pretty heavy favorite. I think Arya Stark will be the favorite in this spot. You will take her, but before we show the replay, I just want to make it clear I'm going to go against her, and I want you to pay attention to Bossy Lady out of the gate. I'll take number 7, Bossy Lady, who finished behind Arya Stark, and this is a horse that showed speed in her second start, her first start rather, where she ran behind Pavlova, who's going to be in the Midsummer. And she just got squeezed by Arya Star out of the gates. And I thought that put her where she did not want to be. Arya Star was able to get a really good trip behind the winner. And she attracted, as I mentioned, when I picked her in this spot, she attracted Hughes, she attracted Walcott to ride. So she's got to be showing some sort of talent in the morning. And then Beckles is now getting on board. And I thought that she continues to run. If you look at her now, she's like 10 lengths with 3 furlongs to go, 10 lengths behind with 3 furlongs to go. And I really don't know what is Arya Stark's excuse for losing this race. She had a perfect trip. I thought she was a lot better than Twinkle Toes and Serenity. So to get a trip like this and finish third, I thought was utterly disappointing. And Bossy Lady making a run and coming so close, given the start that she had and probably wanting to be closer, I'm going to take her out of this spot rather than Arya Stark. But I respect Arya Stark.
Respect as we should. And horses are so funny. In Arya's start position, I've seen so many times where a horse has a perfect let through the rails and just refuses to go through. I don't know the shadows. I don't know what it is about the small, narrow space they refuse to go through. But I wouldn't be surprised if that was the issue. And considering that was her second start, I think that's a plausible excuse. Bossy Lady would have ran a brilliant race, as you would have mentioned, in that same replay. But I think Arya Stark is going to be a bit more forwardly placed. I think she's asking for 7.8 more than any other horse in this race, along with Bossy Lady. But the mere fact that she's now going to be able to settle and maybe not have to run through such tight spaces, mind you, it is a full field of 12.
Well, she was on the outside, so and she was sitting behind a horse like Twinkle Toes, who the form wasn't good. So I think, and I don't think Twinkle Toes' ceiling's that high. So I was very disappointed that Arya Stark, for what I think thought she was after her debut behind Barnabas, did not pass Twinkle Toes. Granted, Serenity is another horse that's, not that exposed, but I thought Arya Stark should have done that. I agree with you. She does look like a filly, and she is bred for it, that wants to go 1570. Also, Boss Lady, the woman is boss with John Bryan. There is some stamina influence on the top side. So Arya Stark, if anyone wants to go 1570 more than the others, but I just think from a quality standpoint, I was really disappointed with Arya Stark not finishing the job, and I'm going to talk her right into the winner's circle right now. But so I'm going to take a risk here with Boss Lady to get the job done. Then I'll take number 5, Firefly, as you will, as well as number 8, Aspire, as you will. I thought Firefly showed a lot of early interest in her first start. She gave the world of trouble before to go in the gate, and then showed that speed, and then ultimately flattened out. Edward Walker is usually a trainer that is better second time out, and she stretches out. She's bred to do that. She's by Storm Arrow out of a mare who produced a Midsummer third place in Bobcat. So there's pedigree here for her to stretch out. And then number 8, Aspire. It was between her and Electra, and I just think Aspire's had some better races than Electra, so I'll take her with Ricky Walker getting on board.
Just as you would have mentioned with Firefly on your third line, she is a horse that's bred and is begging to go longer. I don't think she is. I can't say as talented. Let's not say that. But I don't think.
But she's not as exposed as the other.
Yeah, she's not as exposed as, especially the first two that we have in front of her. I think she's good enough for third. And it's this time of the year that I look at Springhead, because they produce a Derby winner out of nothing at this point of the year. So I am keeping my eye on this one, as I think that is the one that's going to go forward. But hopefully third position is the least she's going to finish Saturday. And Aspire, it was between Aspire and Electra. And as you would have mentioned, Aspire's finishes are not strong enough for me. It feels like she stays on better than the rest to finish fourth, but it's never a competitive fourth. So that's the best position she's going to have for me. She would have to change my mind after this race.
Yeah, I think it's a little too late for Firefly in the Derby. We'll see. I think this 3-year-old class is very, very deep. And then, as you said, Aspire going to really have to run the best race of her life to finish higher than fourth here. But we'll see. That's a really strong maiden race for the middle of the card.
Signing up for BTC Bets is very easy. Go to BarbadosTurfClub.org. Scroll down to Start Betting. Click Sign Up for a free account and fill out the form. Check your email for the verification code and enter it. Create a personal password and PIN, and you're all set to start betting.
We're going to move on to race number 5. It's the Secret Habitat Handicap. This one is at 1,800 meters for the 45 and lower, and it feels like we're going to get somewhat of a rematch of the race that ran on the 2nd of May, where Octavia Sienna was disqualified because a number of them returned in this spot.
Yeah, well, similarly to the 25s and 35s, I feel like this is the same race over and over, but at different distances. And I mean, it's still competitive, so I'm not complaining. My winner here comes from horse number 6, Show Me the Milk. Now, I'm going to scrap her last race because this race was sprinting. If you look through the book, you're going to see basically her last 6 starts outside of this sprint were all hitting the board, minus the 7th with Mohammed, 13th of December. But all of them are 7.8 and or 9 furlongs. Now, I think this is where this horse is competitive. I think she's usually at least, able to get an easy lead, able to bridle up front, and she's one that takes some catching coming home. She has 122 pounds with Delano Lopez, who's no unfamiliar customer to the front end pace. And I think it's just going to be as simple as put this horse on the lead and catch me if you can.
Yeah, she is definitely dangerous in this spot. I have her on my second line. Again, she's a horse that the race runs through her because she will be close to the pace, more than likely on it. And with the weight and Lopez, I think a lot of things are in her favor. I'm going to take horse number 3, Dream Late, the only import in the field. And if you look at this race, that Octavia Sienna is going to cross the wire first in, but Storm in the Milk is the official winner. Dream Lake makes the first move before Octavia Sienna because this is a race that did not fall apart. So when you make that move into a race that did not fall apart, it lets me know that Octavia Sienna and Dream Lake both ran huge. But I'm going to take Dream Lake just because he made that first move and he continued plodding on. He was another one that got into some trouble late and he was also disqualified. But I think this is at 1800 meters, this is his trip, and he's rounding back into form. As I said, I'll take number 6, Show Me the Milk on my second line. We've exhausted her. And I think Octavia Sienna on my third line. She ran well in that race. So I think if she repeats that, she's very dangerous as well because, again, the pace didn't come back to her. She went and got those horses. And then number 5, War Party, will be rounding up my super fat. So just because this, again, water always finds its level. And I liked him last time when he cut back to 45 and lowers because he runs with the 60s and the 55s. So back here with the 45s, I think War Party with Lawson, Mark Lawson making his first ride in Barbados will be one to watch as well.
Yeah, really good effort cutting back in class. This is War Party. Going back to the 45s and lower, as you've mentioned. We're going 9 furlongs once more with Mark Lawson. Good luck to him on his first ride in Barbados. My third line, I ended up with Octavia Sienna. Our first 3 are very similar, bar the Dream Lake. I don't see it. But this is a part of horse racing that you just have to love. An Amazing Jane is going to close out my first 4 in this field. 121 pounds -3 with Aaron Daniel. This horse has been missing for a little bit. I'm not sure if this was by design or maybe by injury, but I think she's going to be there or thereabout to finish 4th in this company.
Yeah, she won last time in a conditional race and all winners of 2. Now that she goes back in with the conditions drop, I'll take the wait and see with Amazing Jane. But that's it for race number 5. We move on to race number 6, the No Bajan handicap. This one is going 1100 meters for the 50s and lower. And I'm going to chalk it up here. I'll take number 10, Princess Julia, because this is a horse that I try to beat pretty frequently for how often she wins. And it's because that she was able to beat me when I held the 130 pounds against her 2 starts ago. That she comes back here with 129. She gets Lopez. She's going to get a good pace setup with Action Pack and Northern Lady, who you see she ran down last time. So I think it's more of the same here with Princess Julia, who's just better than these horses. I'm going to draw a line through the 5th last time out going 1800 meters where I just think she's a better sprinter. Not that she's unable to go the route distances, but coming back to 1100 meters with that last piece of foundation under her belt with that 9 furlong race, why not Princess Julia? The 130 pounds does not bother me whatsoever. As you see in this replay, it didn't bother her then.
Doesn't bother her then, shouldn't bother her now. But I don't like her here. My horse, at least not for the win. She's in my first 3, but not as a winner. My winner comes from horse number 5, Let It Be Me. Now, if I'm being completely honest, I do think Leah and Princess Julia are better horses. But I think in this situation, the draw tells so much. And I think by the time they sort themselves out behind, Let It Be Me is going to be gone. Now, Let It Be Me has 127 pounds -5 with Raheem Thorpe. And similarly to a horse that I called earlier, cutting at this horse's distance, 5.5 and 7.8, this horse hardly runs out of the first 4. And this is very, very, very familiar company. Let It Be Me is on my winning line. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Let It Be Me is my winner for this race. My second line comes from horse number 12. As I would have mentioned, I just think the race is going to be so helter-skelter from the time they get out the gates, considering this horse is so wide. Still good enough to be on board. Third is horse number 10, Princess Julia, your winner. And to close out my first 4, I went with one of the better closers or lone closers in Queen's Consort. A bit hit and a miss recently in form, but I still don't see anything stopping this horse from making some money.
Yeah, she's definitely gone the wrong direction as the year has turned, so I'm not there with you. Some long shots you're putting in for this that I really can't see. I'll take number 5, Let It Be Me, your winner. The Guineas winner has run some really creditable races. Even the 6 in her last start, I think, was better than it looks on paper. It was blown up by a 43-1 long shot. And I thought that Let It Be Me was a little deeper on the deeper end in that spot. She held it together really well. So I think cutting back here, she will be dangerous. Then I'll take number 4, Northern Lady, who, again, when you talk about form, she's been on the board in all 5 of her last starts at the sprint distance, and she's well weighted at 117 pounds. She'll be a part of the pace, and I think she can hang on for a minor position. Then number 8, Love Bug, who's not very exposed and broke her maiden last time out, beating Faster Cash and some other well-regarded sprinting maidens. I think she's another one that's starting to climb the ranks, and I think that when you talk about a closer, she won't be a part of the pace, but if the pace were to fall apart, she will be one to look at. So I'll go 10, 5, 4, and 8 for the race right before the Midsummer. And we're going to move on to the Midsummer. It's race number 7, 1,800 meters for the West Indian bred 3-year-olds. We entered 12, 10 have declared. And this one feels like redemption because I'm going to take Flying Jenny. You're going to take Flying Jenny.
Yeah, I think it has to take someone blind to see that Flying Jenny was not the best horse in the Guineas. As much as she was the best horse, everything is circumstantial in these instances. Ultrasound got the best trip. Now, Flying Jenny got into trouble from about the 4th furlong pole straight away to the top of the stretch. And she's been fighting her way to get a clear run. And by the time she got there, Ultrasound was already gone. Now, she still ran at Ultrasound coming for home. But mind you, as I said, the better trip won the race.
Yeah, I will highlight that trouble when we get there. I think when you look at the Guineas, first off, with such a big field that it was, you wonder what kind of trip she would have gotten. I thought she got away beautifully and was well positioned by Ricky Walker. Right, and then the leader ended up being Relentless, and then ultimately Barnabas was a shock to me. I thought some others would have shown some speed, especially given that I don't think Relentless is a horse that wants to be on the lead, and we'll get to that because I picked him in this high 5 spot. But Flying Jenny, everything seemingly going well. This is a horse that was undefeated coming in and did everything right. Everything was going right. The first big field she's running, and she's getting a good trip, sitting 4th just off the pace. But then as she starts to make her move, horses coming from the back around her and horses in front trying to go back are starting to go backwards. I think she then gets into a bit of trouble past the 3.
Yeah, specifically right here when Relentless comes out, Flying Jenny basically has nowhere to go but backwards. And as I mentioned, she did still showed a lot of heart and character and still ran back at them. Relentless was one that I was, as you would have mentioned, I was really surprised to see on the pace. Barnabas, Ariel, maybe a few others I would have expected to see early, but definitely not Relentless. Ultrasound was able to split horses at the top of the stretch, and Flying Jenny basically ended up, 8, 9 wide, almost going down Bush Hill. She had a tremendous amount of work to do, and sometimes it's just too much to do. And Ultrasound took advantage of such and took the race.
Yeah, so there's a lot of racing, a lot that's required to win races, let alone big races, and Ultrasound definitely was the beneficiary, and that is just a fact. She was traveling well, Flying Jenny, that is, and then just loses a couple lengths. When you're trying to go forward, she's going backwards. She regroups, and she's right there with the winner at the end. I think Ultrasound and Ariel were given perfect rides by their jockeys. I think they just saved ground, tipped up when the time was right. Ultrasound's a horse that I liked in the hopeful, so to see him bounce back here, I don't think this race came out of nowhere, but I'm not now jumping onto the Ultrasound train, especially when I thought that Flying Jenny had an excuse. And you're going to get maybe some better odds now on Flying Jenny that she's lost, so I'll take her on top. I'll take number 3, Pavlova. This is a horse that scratched out of the Guineas, and I would have liked her a lot in the Guineas, not to win. I didn't see anyone beating Flying Jenny. But since then, she's come back and she won a sprint last time out. And I think this is a horse that wants to route. Her mother, Lavani, had a very impressive BTBA breeders race at 9 furlongs. She will be a part of the pace. I think she's faster than Barnabas, so she will be in front. Then I'll take Ultrasound on my 3rd line. This is a horse top to bottom that's bred to be good. He looks the part. I know he's a Guineas winner. Again, if he can back up that performance, he will be tough in here, but I don't want to just, default to him because I didn't like him coming into the Guineas. I think coming out of the Guineas now, he obviously is a horse on your radar, but he's not a horse that I want in this way. I think it's still Flying Jenny.
Yeah, still Flying Jenny for my win. Ultrasound now comes up on my radar after winning the Guineas. He was nowhere to be found coming on to the Guineas or pre-Guineas. His last win came in 2025. He was dismissed by Flying Jenny previously. He was dismissed by Atara. He was it looked like he was going downhill. And then he came with a performance. I don't know where he pulled it from. Deservedly so. He was 21-1 going into the Guineas. And I guess the Connections had a field day gambling. But
Yeah,
I
and
think
he
this,
won't be that in the midsummer.
yeah, he's
He
not
won't
going
be.
to be 21-1 again. But I still think the horse to beat is Flying Jenny. I still think she is the best so far in this crop. Someone will have to drop out of the sky to show me that, there's a better horse than her. On my third line, I went for horse number 8, Undeniable. This horse, I think, is going to appreciate the longer trip that much more. The way I've seen him finish races recently, it looks like he's begging to go longer. I think he's going to be very competitive at 9 and 10 furlongs. It's for him to be forwardly placed to have a shot at running at them late. My fourth line, sorry, is Pavlova, who's been missing from the Guineas but came back and, as you mentioned, would have won a sprint last race day. She clearly hasn't been missing anything. She's still the horse that we remember her to be. And to round out my high five, I went with horse number 1, Maker's Mark. Now, I would have made a comment last pre-show on Maker's Mark stating that I believe this horse is going to want that much of a longer trip. And obviously, he showed that I was wrong. I still think he's a better horse going longer. So now we're at 9 furlongs and not 5.5. I am on his train. At the same time, you've now gone from beating maidens to the best of the best, or running against maidens, beating maidens to running against the best of your age group. So I don't think it's as easy as just jumping into the deep end of the pool and being able to swim. I think it's going to take maybe a 1-2 start to get at them, but by the Derby, this is a horse I'm keeping my eyes on.
Yeah, he's definitely one to keep your eyes on. I don't have him in here because I just feel like the way that the race was finishing, where Faster Cash in that maiden race was coming close to you, and then the race before, you were unable to beat Copper Shot, granted, who has more experience. I think this is a wait and see for me, but definitely the talent is there with this one. But I'll take number 8 on my fourth line, Undeniable, your third horse, who's a half brother to Naomi, who's classic placed as well. I was very disappointed with his performance in the Guineas out of such an impressive maiden breaking win. But if you look back at the replay, as I mentioned with Ariel and Ultrasound, especially with Ariel, Undeniable was the third one in that line saving ground. And again, when the tempo picked up and Ariel and Ultrasound saved ground on the rails, the jockey decided to angle Undeniable out. And that cost him a lot of ground. And maybe if he was to follow Ariel, he would have been a lot closer in the end. Also, this is a horse that, as you said, is bred for it and shows that he wants to stretch out. So I like the 9 furlongs here. The Connections changed to rider and Thorpe gets on. I think this is a little bit of an upgrade. So Undeniable is one that may get lost here and will offer some value for these exotic plays. And I'll take number 12, Relentless. As I said in the open, I didn't think this is a horse that would have shown that much speed. So now that he's
blinkers had him a bit antsy.
He's been wearing the blinkers, so he won it. So I'm just wondering where those tactics came from. Maybe he was just so fresh. He's now drawn 10 of 10. So coming from the outside, breaking in a turn, maybe he will be forced to rate and hopefully save some ground. I think this is a horse you want to watch going forward. So I'll take number 12, Relentless, because if you watch the Guineas, he's just showing so much speed, gets past, re-rallies, comes into the stretch, and then obviously his tank is empty. So I think there were some tricks in there that with horses that had some talent before the Guineas that you would want to watch coming into the Midsummer, and Relentless is one of them. But I think it's really Flying Jenny. As long as there's nothing unforeseen, this is a horse, let's not forget, that ran 135 flat on Gold Cup Day in a canter. So she's the best I've seen. I think that she can shake off the Guineas and be a Midsummer winner.
And on to the nightcap. The Lady Miriam handicap, 5.5 furlongs for our top-rated sprinters. Rashaun, as much as it is top-rated sprinters, a lot of these horses have not sprinted in Barbados. I say a lot, but it's really just 2. It's just Bulldoze and Deck and Prince who've never sprinted in Barbados.
Yeah, it is these 2. And I'm going to split them, but I will pick both of them. You don't have them either anywhere. And I don't need to see them sprint to know that they can do it. And they're some of the best horses in Barbados. And I believe that they're going to be very, very tough to beat, whether this race was at 5.5 or it was at 9 furlongs. Deccan Prince finished second to Bulldoze last time out. And I'm going to flip that just because I think Deccan Prince with the draw on the inside and at 114 pounds is just a lot more primed in this spot to win. Bulldoze, I love that they're showing up. That's the first thing. I love that the 140s are being carded and these big horses are showing up. But I think Deccan Prince with Muhammad could sit behind Anissa and just pounce when he's ready. I'm not sure that he can get almost 20 pounds from Bulldoze, or Bulldoze can give almost 20 pounds to him and beat him. So I think Deccan Prince is the one you want cutting back here to 1100 meters.
I want to be with you, but I'm so far away from you. From the time the entries came out and I saw Anissa Drew won with 119 pounds, I said there's no way they're going to beat this horse. Now, as much as I say so, the Spa winner is in here, horse number 6, Miss Anya. If we go back and look at the Spa, now look at the dynamics of from the time the gates flew, Miss Anya was out and she was on the rails. Whereas Anissa had to come across from the 11 or 12 hole. She had a lot of work to do where Miss Anya would have been comfortable. I think now you flip the script and now you have Anissa on the inside and Miss Anya on the outside. I think now you can take it to Miss Anya where she can't make you uncomfortable or she can't float you and do what she did to you. Just give the flip the script a complete 180 degrees, Warby is another horse in here that I have keen eyes on, especially how he ran his last effort. He quite jumped me. I didn't expect him to run at Nostradamus and Mystic Rain like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's there or thereabout at the end of this race. I have him on my second line. 112 pounds -3 is very, very attractive in this position. And Miss Anya, as much as I said you can flip the script on her, I still think she's good enough to be third. Caspian Sea, Deccan Prince, Bulldoze, who are all bigger type horses, especially Bulldoze and Deccan Prince. I don't see them being comfortable sprinting here. I could be wrong. As I would have mentioned, this is all opinionative. So let it be. It is what it is. 1, 2, and 6 is my first 3 for this race.
Well, on Anissa, since I picked her, I think you make a good point about the trips in the Spa. Obviously disappointing that she was unable to win that. Right out of the gates, the jockey was foot out of the stirrups and very uncomfortable, almost fell off.
Made it even worse.
Exactly. Then she had to rush up. And if you watch Miss Anya in the Spa, Kyle was motionless the entire time. She had to race in outer space to feel less pressure. She was so comfortable the entire way. So by the time Anissa gets to her, she's already used up some gas to get there. And then Miss Anya, who I'm very surprised wasn't disqualified, drifted the entire stretch. So there was a lot that made Anissa uncomfortable. I thought she ran huge to finish second when you look back at it. Miss Anya, no, on the other hand, I'm surprised that you're picking her with this draw and who's in here because she got good for these connections going to the lead. She cannot see the lead in this spot. If she leads this race, everybody drawn 1 to 5 is riding their horses terribly because the blinkers are not going on to Anissa with 119 pounds on the real draw for Miss Anya to lead this race. So I think that Miss Anya really is not going to rate and run down Anissa and hold off a Deccan Prince. I really think Anissa and Deccan Prince are fast enough from the inside to be 1-2. And Miss Anya, then, if she's forced to sit behind, she, in my opinion, is not winning this race. So I'll go against her. And it's because of that excuse that I have Anissa in there from the Spa, because I really like Warby at the 112. This is a horse that has really transformed. You look at his form after the Coolmore, he ran huge in the Spa to just miss, came back and just missed in a race that was won in 103, then split Mystic Rain and Nostradamus. He's playing spoiler. So at the 112, maybe 109, wherever, I thought he was going to be a horse I would end up picking, but I can't see past a horse that's rated 135 and another one that's rated 123 and then another one that's rated 122. I think these are 3 really good horses in this spot, and that's where I'm going to land. And it'd be very hard to see if it would split this trifecta. I know Bulldoze is one that you may not think as a sprinter, but he's a good horse, and I will take that talent over a lot of other things. So I'll go 4-1-5 to end a very, very competitive race day, and we'll see how the Lady Miriam handicap goes. So thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Pillars to Post. As always, thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our YouTube, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and X. Good luck for Midsummer Creole Classic Race Day, and may all your bets be winning ones.
Until next time.